Live from the NASDAQ market site here in Times Square, I'm Meg Modick, and for the second year in a row, the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation has joined us here at the crossroads of the world to ring the opening bell. Today, I am pleased to welcome back Dr. Samuel Waxman, founder and CEO of the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation, to discuss the work he and his team are doing. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Waxman.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to the opportunity of speaking with you.
Oh, absolutely. And we had you here earlier this month. Thank you for opening the markets for the day. And for really the month, you were here earlier on in August.
Correct.
Well, let's get right into it. So tell us about the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation, the work you were doing.
Right. Well, Meg, we're a 40-year-old foundation started by a few folks, basically in relation to help me support my own research. I'm a practicing oncologist, cancer doctor, and also have always had my own research lab. And it became clear to people that knew me that research has to be supported, not just with grants, but with philanthropy. And they graciously started the foundation 40 years ago, and it's now grown to supporting not just my lab, but labs around the world with about 40 different sites, most of them in the United States. We also have labs, scientists we fund in Israel, China, Canada, etc. So it's a very exciting network.
40 years. I mean, yeah, I can imagine the network would be continually expanding, and that's, I mean, that's half a lifetime's worth of work as well, too.
I hope so.
I mean, honestly,
we're just halfway there.
That is tremendous commitment. That's so impressive. Now, what type of cancer research does the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation do?
So we have a mission, and that is to identify how genes break down in their function and how that causes cancer. Very fundamentally, starting at the bench, looking at what genes not working in a form of cancer, find out how it affects a normal cell, become cancerous, and most of all, find a way to correct it as a treatment.
I see.
And we do that in all forms of cancer.
I see. Now, I know that there is a new research initiative that your foundation is supporting, and this is the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation Partnership for Aging and Cancer Research. So talk to me a little bit what that means. You know, when I think of aging and cancer research, I think of people on the older end of the spectrum who may be experiencing, you know, the symptoms and you know, beginning a fight with cancer themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, but maybe more complicated.
Oh, sure, sure, okay,
but
usually is.
Basically, the observation is that cancer incidence increases as people age.
Sure.
This is throughout the world. And we are in an aging world. Our demographics are such where more and more people will be over the age of 65 and remarkably increase throughout the planet. If you look at the curve of incidence of cancer, it starts to take off at age 40, goes up straight up until 80, 85. So more and more people are going to get cancer. It's predicted. So the work I'm thinking about is probably more relevant to a young person. My grandkids, for example, are going to have a better chance of getting cancer than me because they're going to live longer. So we shouldn't think about the research just benefiting people who are old. The research I'm thinking about is to prevent cancer from happening as we age, which will be more relevant to you and younger people than me.
A bit of racing the clock.
Exactly. We want to get out there ahead of the curve. We know it's going to happen. You know, some people might be dramatic in saying it's an epidemic. Well, you know what? That's the price for living longer.
Yes, it is.
So that cancer is not going away. It's only going to be more prevalent.
Gotcha. Now, and why is this an important area of research to support? Would you say that in general, in terms of the cancer research that is being done, this is underserved? Or do you think it needs to be promoted? What's your take?
Well, that's what got me into this. Just as a physician, for example, I've seen more cancer develop in people who I treated when they were young and cured them of one disease, living longer to get even a worse form of cancer. And so that aging process makes cancer come back in people. So I started to look into how it's being funded, and it was remarkably underfunded. So in 2015, the National Cancer Institute, which is the major source of funds from the government for research in cancer, funded 6,000 scientists with a grant, which is great. Meanwhile, only 8 dealt with the problem of aging and cancer.
I see.
Only 8. The National Institute of Aging, which is also another institute at the National Institutes of Health, which deals with aging, has virtually no interaction with the National Cancer Institute. They just don't have programs together. Now, if it's so clear that cancer is a disease of aging,
Yes.
we need something called collaboration.
Certainly. I mean, at the very least, wouldn't they be potentially duplicating efforts?
They're not so much duplicating efforts, they're not working together to ask big questions that have to be asked.
I see.
So it's a significantly underfunded need.
Gotcha. Now, in terms of funding, how would donations to the Aging and Cancer Program be applied?
Right. So we recently, after a year of intense work, the Waxman Foundation formed a partnership with the National Cancer Institute, and the National Institute of Aging is joining us to make grants available to scientists working in aging and cancer throughout the United States through the usual process of competitive grants.
I see.
So we have got a pilot grant, a fund of about $3 million that we're starting with. A certain amount has come from the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation. More has come from the National Cancer Institute and the National Institute of Aging. So we're going to have this going in 2018. And it's the first time that a grant through NIH or NCI requires collaboration with someone working in aging and someone working in cancer. So my dream of bringing the two forces together is going to happen.
Oh, that's outstanding.
It's very exciting.
That's really exciting.
So this is the beginning. $3 million sounds a lot, but it's not. And we have billions of dollars. The cost of cancer as we age is unbelievably expensive in money and in sadness. We have to prevent that.
Right.
So we need people to help us on the non-government side. We need partners from the business world. We need partners from other foundations, and we also need partners from individual to help us fund our part and force the government to give more. So for every dollar we have been giving, we want the government to come up with more and more.
So I've heard a couple of goals here mentioned along the way.
Yeah.
So obviously collaboration being first and foremost.
Very much so.
Definitely. And then also, would you also say, attention from the government being a goal? What other goals would aging and cancer research have for you?
Right. Well, goals would be defining where the crossover happens between aging and cancer. There's a lot of similarities between the aging process and the cancer process. If you look for it within the cells that are aging in your body, it's remarkably similar. Aging is pushed by a system where genes start to downregulate themselves, the immune system starts to downregulate themselves, nutritional changes, and so these cells will go on as we age to something called senescence. They stop growing.
Senescence.
Cancer has a similar match. They have mutations happening in cancer that are very similar to those that would happen in aging. It's crazy. Not everybody with these mutations get cancer. A lot of people, normal people as they age, find these mutations and they're in cancer. We want to know why they get it, why they don't get it. So it's getting data in human tissues, in animal models. We need to know why certain people are born with an aging, a premature aging, get cancer. There is such a thing. It's called progeria. And kids with progeria get cancer and die from it at a young age. So the connections are there. So we need to ask big questions, expensive questions.
Certainly expensive. Now, and how could the viewers today get involved and help support? I actually, before the camera started rolling, you and I had a little bit of a conversation.
Right.
Because I was checking out your website and I saw that you have a group for, the millennial that wants to get involved. And we had a show here at NASDAQ called the Millennial Report for some time, so I'm always very interested in how millennials can get involved and be part of this.
This is a great opportunity for millennials to come forward. We have had millennial events in the past at the foundation. We want to make that bigger. We'd like them to approach us through waxmancancer.org, our website, and make themselves known. We'd love to have them join. We like, millennial can do so much. You're startups,
Right.
but you're in companies. And so there's so much power there as a startup person to bring in a senior.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and the excitement, remember, it affects the millennials more than me.
Gotcha. No,
Okay.
and I would say, you know, a lower barrier to entry for donors that might be starting off in their careers
Right.
and may not be in a position yet to make
It's
sizable
giving
donations.
of yourself.
Exactly.
It's not so many dollars you can give. It's your ability. It's just starting to peak, and we love it if we could be involved with it.
I just think it's so smart when
Yeah.
nonprofits
Right.
decide to
Yeah.
make that decision and involve
Exactly.
young people. But to our viewers today, what can they be doing to get involved? I know you mentioned your website.
Yep. Certainly they should take a look at it.
Yeah.
Certainly they should ask questions. Why is it so important? I'm happy to get back to you and answer questions. Why is it important for me in my 20s to be thinking about cancer as the disease of aging?
Right.
Don't forget, you've got a better chance of getting it than me. So what can we do about it? We first have to get that research done. So participation is incredibly important. If there's any way that you can help us raise money, I said, big questions are very costly.
Of course.
Very costly. So our goal in the next few years is to take this $3 million program and build it to $20 million. That's why they need help.
And that is such an admirable goal. Thank you again for being here,
Right.
Dr. Waxman.
Right.
We really appreciate you having you. And again, today we are visited by the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation, who was here earlier this month to ring the opening bell. Well, Facebook, this is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep a lookout for more coming at you from MarketSite throughout the day.